Michelle, I grew up with a lot of factoid type science books. And when my kids were little, I thought that I would open up the world of science for my children. But I have come to learn that living books are a totally different thing. What is really the fundamental difference between these fact based encyclopedia type books and these typically older books that are written more like story and music? What is the difference between these, and is one better than another for our children?
The importance of literature today in the raising of children and teens is so profound. It absolutely cannot be overstated. We have to be so mindful about that which goes into them. We wouldn't go to all this effort to offer these books if they were only 5 or 10% better than what's out there. They are completely other. That is why we want to take time to do a comparison, because the change may have seemed gradual enough that we don't realize. But once we peel back the layers and see the core of each of them, we will see why it is so significant that we pursue and acquire and feed that which is richest. This would be a typical modern book of today. It's simply called Forest. That's all we get is the title here. One single word. In other words, they're providing us with a label for a file or a directory or a folder that we're going to create in our physical cerebrum. And then they're going to tell us, now we're going to pour data into your file. We look at the front of this book, it's called Forest, but we don't really see a whole forest, barely any at all, just a little hint at the bottom. What this book is loudly putting forward is not only not just even a whole tree, it's not even a whole section of a whole tree. The image that is just blaring at you is that a forest is nothing more than slabs of cellulose. A forest is actually symphonic in nature. It is complex. It is vital. It reproduces itself. We are stirred and moved when we enter a forest, and they have reduced it to slabs of cellulose. If we open this book up, we turn to this page where we're seeing one tip of one branch that's forming a pine cone. Let's give another example. Here is just a seed pod, one half of one seed pod. Here is one root. It's as if a forest had been put into some sort of a cosmic sized garbage disposal, ground up into a million little shards. We're supposed to put our hand down into that icky little hole of the garbage disposal, pull out one leftover fragment, and supposedly say to kids, wow, see the wonder in the universe? A core heart of what makes a living book living is that it not only tells you about it, but it gives you the depth of it. Here is a prime example, The Secrets of Redding Glen. Guess what? This is a real place. The author illustrator lived in Redding, Connecticut. This was the forest he walked in. Look at the art on this cover. He is showing a whole forest. There are real deer, real trees, real birds, real pond. The wholeness of the forest is here. And in fact, if we go to a famous phrase, it is that the sum will never equal the whole. We may have had every little part in the other book, but put them all together, you'll never ever reach wholeness. There is something profound about wholeness because we have a whole God who made a whole world. When we open this book, you'll see how very different it is inside. Do you see how calm they are?
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of what's called white space in publishing. Just relax. And
Mm-hmm.
also, it's as if a buffer is being
Mm-hmm.
formed around the book, away from the outer world, so that we can go down and into this book. We're going to
Yeah.
travel, we're going to make a journey down into this world. So, if we turn over to the first actual page, look at what we have here. One of the most beautiful paintings of a forest, a whole forest, not one little seed pod. We have the wholeness of the forest. And beside it is some of the most beautiful language you will ever hear. There is a glen where the wild geese fly and the salamanders live, where the owl hoots in the moonlight and the wood thrush sings in the day. Wild grapes cling to the beech tree and the loon cries out in the night. The hills that surround the cove give sanctuary to the fox and the deer. The silence of a deep shadowed summer's day is broken only by the drone of a cicada or the silver song of a scarlet tanager. I have goosebumps and I've read it 10,000 times. Real language.
Yeah.
Language is a gift that our God, our Creator, gave only to human beings. The
Yeah.
world will never come up with an alternative to actual language. And so that heart that I was saying earlier is what's hungering for deep truth and deep meaning. Real language is what feeds that heart. Let's move to the third page here. and we'll notice that a tree has fallen here. If we pop ahead, we'll see here's a fallen tree right here, but look what's happened. The saprophytes have begun to grow on the tree. They are breaking down the tissue. The nutrients are being returned to the soil. And here we have the forest succession cycle that we all had in a textbook, but it's happening organically within the flow of the book itself. So forest succession is encountered not just as a term to be memorized, but a beautiful process. And look at the art. The art is so beautiful because, like language, great art gives us the capacity to glean immaterial input. So what we have here is an actual science book. This is the way science books were made in what is called the golden age of youth literature. And that
Mhm.
is when the living books were being produced. If you'll notice, every image in this non-living book came from a machine, either a camera or a computer. Remember that the language is written like machine code. They're treating us as memorizing machines, and every bit of visual image comes from a machine. This is the mechanization of youth literature in a time when there is a battle against the actual spiritual element, because it would give a moment's nod to our real actual immaterial king. And what we want is very much for our children to meet that king and in everything he has made. Knowing about something is different from having built a relationship with it. And in a living book, you are actually having a vicarious experience with and relationship with not only people and nature and composers and everything else. There's just no end to it.
Michelle, this is absolutely amazing. If we are just getting started in this and we want to know more, where can we go to find more?
I try to help people start living books libraries, or I consult with families individually on how to begin a rich educational journey. I would also recommend getting books about good books. And if you have young children, simply just start with the 5 in a row program. What it is it's beginning children's learning journey through great literature and unpacking the untold riches in science, in language, in art, in culture, in history, in geography that are laden inside of a book. And then try to find a living books library in your area and not only join and begin to feed on them, but hey, maybe pitch in and help. You'll build a great community, make great friends, and help the work, because there's people doing this around the country now, and we need more such libraries and more such people participating and helping them come to be. Before the textbook was ever invented, real education meant reading the greatest books ever available at the time. You absolutely cannot go wrong, because not only do you get the content, but something in the heart and the spirit is fed. And then again, that ability to think and to problem solve is forged, and you will be blown away by the results. They will surpass your educational dreams many times over. You are in for a treat.